Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. We'd like to start our hearing. We do have a quorum. To my left, Councilman Tautenberger, Councilman Greenlee, and to my right, Councilman O. Mr. McMonigle, please read the title of the first bill.
Bill number 180555, an ordinance amending Section 9-204 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sidewalk Vendors in Center City and Section 9-205 entitled Sidewalk Sales to exempt sales of fresh fruit and vegetables on the abutting sidewalk of a property by the owner or tenant of that property from the requirements of Sections 9-204 and 9-205 under certain terms and conditions.
And the Health Commissioner, anybody else here to testify on bill number 180555? Thank you, Commissioner. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Chairman Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. I'm Dr. Thomas Farley, Health Commissioner for the City of Philadelphia. Thank you for allowing me to give testimony in bill number 180555, which, if enacted, would make it easier for Philadelphia store owners interested in selling fresh fruits and vegetables outside their stores to do so. Philadelphia has very high rates of diseases linked to an unhealthy diet, such as diabetes and heart disease. At the Health Department, we are encouraging residents to have healthier diets, including eating more fruits and vegetables, and collaborating with partners across the city to improve access to healthy foods and to improve the nutrition of food served in institutional settings. Unfortunately, in many Philadelphia neighborhoods, fresh fruits and vegetables are hard to find. Corner stores are everywhere, but they sell mostly unhealthy foods. 23% of Philadelphians live in areas with no to low walkable access to healthy foods. 30% of African American residents in Philadelphia, 25% of Latinos, and 26% of the city's children live in blocks with low access to healthy food. In many cities across the United States and around the world, though, you can see displays of fresh fruits and vegetables on the sidewalks outside of small stores. These produce displays invite passersby to stop in, acting effectively as advertising for healthy foods inside their stores. They also expand the retail space available to small store owners, helping them to boost their revenue. Current laws in Philadelphia are barriers to store owners having displays like these. Many streets are prohibited from having any outdoor product displays. Other rules ban store owners from keeping racks or shelving outdoors after business hours. That means that a store owner who wants to sell fresh fruits and vegetables outside of his or her store not only needs to pack up all the produce at the end of the day, but also needs to find somewhere inside the store to keep the racks or shelving after hours. This bill would help both store owners and the residents nearby by removing those barriers. In the 6th Councilmanic District, store owners are already allowed to sell fresh fruits and vegetables on sidewalks abutting their buildings without sidewalk sales licenses, even where sidewalk sales are otherwise prohibited. This bill would expand this exemption to the entire city and create a parallel exemption for stores to leave display shelves outdoors overnight. But to qualify, the stores could sell only fresh fruits and vegetables. This bill is not an opportunity to sell other items on the sidewalk. Also, stores would remain subject to requirements for unobstructed sidewalk space and food safety, including a ban on leaving any food outside overnight to avoid any problems with rodents or other pests. Our department has worked with the Food Trust to learn about sidewalk sales of produce in other cities. We learned that sidewalk sales of fresh produce drew many new customers to participating stores and resulted in very positive response from the community. If this bill is passed, we plan to provide technical assistance to ensure store owners are aware of the revised city policies and to help store owners access affordable, good quality produce, create attractive displays, and better market produce to customers. Overall, this bill is a win for everyone involved. Residents will have better access to healthy foods, neighborhoods will look more attractive, and store owners will see an increase in business. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and happy to answer any questions.
You didn't exceed your time. That was just a mouthful.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your testimony, and we'll have any questions if anybody else want to testify on this legislation.
We've got probably 4 or 5 others that want to
Okay.
give brief testimony, but I'll be happy to answer. Well, go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman Squilla, Councilman Green, and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. My name is Shayna Jarvis, and I'm a Senior Program Manager on the Healthy Corner Store Initiative at the Food Trust. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. The Sidewalk Vendor Bill will provide greater access to fresh fruits and vegetables for Philadelphia residents, a mission that the Food Trust has been striving for since 1992, which is why we fully support the passage of this bill to make it easier for retailers to sell fresh produce outside of their store. The Food Trust Healthy Corner Store initiative has been working to increase healthy foods, specifically fresh fruits and vegetables, in small stores across the city for the past 10 years. This past year, our program worked closely with the Philadelphia Department of Public Health's Get Healthy Philly initiative to investigate corner store owners' interests and the barriers to outside produce vending. We visited a number of stores who were either already selling produce outside or had the interest or potential for outdoor produce vending. We heard time and time again that the current policies are both confusing and prohibitive. Currently, retailers are required to bring their stands inside of the store each night. This is simply not possible for the average 500 square foot corner store. In addition, stands must be monitored at all times by a store associate. In reality, many stores are staffed by only one person who must remain inside the store at the register at all times. Hiring a second staff person in order to sell produce outside would not be a cost-effective business decision. In addition, the retailers we spoke to that already sold produce outside stated that theft was not an issue. Another major barrier we identified is the list of streets prohibited from outdoor vending. We came across several stores located on prohibitive streets who have become a mainstay in their community selling produce outside for years, totally unaware they were in violation, as well as others who have the ability and intent to sell fresh produce, but are legally unable to since they are located on a prohibited street. I've seen firsthand how selling produce outside can impact purchasing decisions. During our store interviews, I watched people walk by a store and notice the fresh, vibrant produce displayed outside, and then make an unplanned stop to buy a few items. I've also seen how different a store's facade and ultimately a neighborhood can look when fresh produce is displayed, drawing attention away from the ubiquitous tobacco advertisements that cover the walls and windows of many stores. Eliminating the barriers to outdoor produce sales makes sense from a business perspective, a community perspective, and of course, a health perspective. The Food Trust urges the adoption of Bill 180555 in order to allow stores to more simply sell fresh fruits and vegetables outside and provide greater access to healthy foods to communities across the city. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, all. Good morning, council members. My name is Arnett Woodall, University of Penn community scholar and also the owner and builder of West Philadelphia Produce. And at West Philadelphia Produce, we built it from the ground up back in 2007. And it has now been open for 7 days a week for the last 9 years in our community. And the open sales and sales on our sidewalk has changed the demographics and the attitudes and the moods of people in our community. We are now globally published across the globe in produce business as the model for all communities across the country. We provided you with a copy of the article that we appear in this magazine that's globally published. But with the sale of fruit and produce in communities on sidewalks, it has to come into effect sooner or later because it's the way of the future. Universities across the tri-states send classes by the busloads out to West Philadelphia Produce just to see what we're doing out in our community. As you'll see, we've done Good Morning America. We've done just about every newspaper in the city of Philadelphia with our approach to the healthy concepts in communities. And it can work with some of these barriers broken and some of the red tape that it takes to get fruit and produce out into communities. With this bill passed, we'll be able to get more fruit and produce and provide more healthy residents in the city of Philadelphia. He's just spoke on community stores and stores in our community. In our African American communities, every corner store is selling a hoagie inside that corner store. But when you look at the hoagie and think about what's the healthiest thing on a hoagie, the onion is the healthiest thing. People are fooled into thinking that that green lettuce, which has no nutritional value. The mayonnaise, the cheese, and the oil is creating cholesterol and heart failure. The bread breaks down into sugar, and the FDA itself said that the meat alone on a hoagie causes more cancer than smoking cigarettes. And this is why more fruit and produce is needed in communities to go along with that hoagie. I thank you for the time, and I hope that this bill passes because across your city and your underserved communities in Philadelphia, more fruit and produce is needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there others that want to testify? Two more? If you want to proceed back up to the table, and then state your name for the record, and then proceed with your testimony.
Hello, good morning. My name is Idalisa Gomez. Can you hear me better there? My name is Idalisa Gomez. I'll be interpreting today for Mr. Jose Espinal. So, you can go ahead.
Sí, buenos días.
Good morning.
Presidente Esquila,
Tiene que pegarse del micrófono.
Presidente Esquila, concejal
Good morning.
Green y
President Esquila,
miembros del Comité
Concejal Green,
de Vías
and
Públicas
members
y
of the Committee
Servicios.
of Streets and Services.
Mi nombre es José
Excuse me,
Espinal.
1 second. Just wait till he's done and then do it so we could
Hágalo
get
por
it.
favor,
Okay, thank you.
para yo poder hacerlo.
Mi nombre es José Espinal
My name is Jose Espinal.
y soy dueño de Good Neighbor Mini Market,
I am the owner of Good Neighbors Mini Market.
una bodega que hace esquina en las calles 49 y Woodland,
It's a store that is in the corner of 49th Street and Woodland Street
en West Philadelphia.
in West Philadelphia.
Durante los últimos 8 años
In the last 8 years,
se le he proveído comidas nutritivas y asequibles a la comunidad.
I have provided nutritive foods and foods that the community likes,
incluyendo una amplia variedad de frutas y vegetales frescas.
including a big variety of fruits and vegetables.
Tras muchos años de manejar mi bodega,
After so many years of managing my own store,
estoy lanzando un proyecto nuevo y emocionante.
I want to throw out there a new project which is really exciting.
Les voy a llevar frutas y verduras a nuestros bodegueros.
I want to sell fruits and vegetables to all the other store owners
En la ciudad.
in the city.
Al hablar con otros negociantes, aprendí que a muchos les interesa utilizar la acera.
When I spoke with all the other store owners, I find out that they all want to use the sidewalk as well,
Al lado de su negocio,
next to their business,
como si fuera una ampliación de su bodega para vender productos frescos.
taking it as making the store bigger in order to sell fresh products.
Crear un interior más atractivo y vivo y, por supuesto, atraer unos nuevos clientes
Of course, to make the exterior of the store look more attractive and to get more clients for our businesses.
Sin embargo, muchos expresaron preocupación
A couple of them were a little worried about this project
por las reglas actuales,
because of the rules that we have right now or the laws,
las cuales requieren que vigilen el estante en todos momentos.
the ones, for example, that requires that the stands are being watched at all times or supervised,
Y lo metan adentro cada noche.
and to put them inside every night.
A otros les falta la posibilidad de vender frutas y verduras.
This will make harder for other people to sell and vegetables and fruits
Fuera de su negocio porque están situados en calles prohibidas.
because for some of them it's harder to sell fruits and vegetables outside their business because there are in streets that are prohibited
En Filadelfia,
in Philadelphia,
una ciudad en que aproximadamente un cuarto de la población le falta acceso.
It's a city where around 1/4 of the people don't have access to fresh products.
Caminable,
I'm sorry? Perdón.
caminable,
Acceso.
caminable, sí.
No estoy entendiendo cuál es la oración.
Esta, caminable, como que trafica la persona.
Okay, so they don't have access to vegetables like in the streets while walking.
Alimentos saludables en ninguna calle
They don't have healthy products in the streets, in none of the streets.
debería ser prohibida la venta de productos frescos.
I apologize, I'm going to clarify with my client. Déjeme, no estoy entendiendo lo que usted me está diciendo aquí. Es que tiene que terminar la oración completa para que suene correcto, porque si usted dice eso, aquí dice que prohíban la venta de productos frescos. Entonces, aquí dice, en Filadelfia, la ciudad en que aproximadamente un cuarto de la población le falta acceso a alimentos saludables, en ninguna calle debería ser. Okay. So, due to the fact that in Philadelphia, it is prohibited to sell vegetables in the streets, we believe that it shouldn't be that way. It should be allowed to sell products in the streets.
Debería ser,
Es imperativo.
es imperativo que quitemos barrera para vender productos agrícolas fuera.
It would be really proactive to actually take off the barriers that we have in order to sell our products outside the street, outside the stores
De nuestro negocio,
of our business,
para que gente por toda la ciudad pueda encontrar y comprar frutas.
so people all over the city can sell and find fruits and vegetables
Para sí mismos, sus familias,
for them and their families.
su voto a favor de esta propuesta ayudará no solamente distribuidores como yo,
If you guys vote for this proposal, it will not only benefit me,
sino cientos de negociantes que se beneficiarán sumamente
but hundreds of other business owners as well.
de regulaciones que nos hacen avanzar y a la vez traerán más frutas y verduras a nuestras comunidades.
And this will make us walk further. I'm sorry. Déjame decirlo, ¿con dónde quedó?
Aquí, comunidades. Quede.
Beneficiar son intervenciones que nos hacen avanzar. Okay. These regulations will make us go further, and at the same time, it will bring more fruits and vegetables to our communities.
Gracias por considerar mi testimonio y por su servicio a la ciudad.
Thank you for considering my testimony and for your services to the city.
Thank you so much.
Gracias. Thank you. Please proceed.
Hey, good morning, Chairman Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. My name is Dwayne Wharton, and I'm an appointed member of the Philadelphia Food Policy Advisory Council. Thank you for this opportunity to testify on behalf of FPAC in support of Bill number 180555, which would make it easier for store owners to sell fresh fruits and vegetables outside of their stores. Numerous studies have shown that large areas of Philadelphia have few supermarkets, and in many neighborhoods, none exist. In fact, Philadelphia has the second lowest number of supermarkets per capita of major cities in the nation. This shortage of supermarkets means that residents must travel outside of their neighborhoods to purchase food or shop at more corner store and convenience stores with limited selections of fruits and vegetables. And as great as our farmers markets are, Philadelphians cannot rely exclusively on them to fulfill all of our needs. For many of our residents, especially people living in low-income communities of color, finding a fresh apple or produce simply to make a healthy meal for their families is not easy. In fact, according to the Philadelphia Department of Health, almost a quarter of all Philadelphians live in areas with high poverty and low to no walkable access to healthy food. This insufficient access to healthy food contributes to high rates of diet-related health problems such as heart disease, cancer, and diabetes we see in our city. FPAC's Food and Health Subcommittee is charged with advising the city on policies and practices that influence food and beverage choices with the aim of improving overall health and well-being and reducing health disparities for all Philadelphians. With the passage of this legislation, many of our corner stores, along with traditional grocery stores and other food vendors, will be able to increase the volume of fruits and vegetables offered to communities. By displaying produce front and center on the sidewalks, we hope this increased exposure will also encourage more Philadelphians to make healthier choices. We ask for your support in amending the City of Philadelphia Code to make it easier for store owners to sell produce on their sidewalk. Thank you again for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, and thank you all. Commissioner Farley, just one question. This seems like a great policy moving forward, and who would be in charge of the regulations we see that are being set forth of enforcement to make sure that?
Right, so the Streets Department regulates the use of the sidewalk and the physical use of that space. The Health Department regulates the operations of a retail food store, including if they're cutting fruits and vegetables, how to do that in a sanitary way and how to avoid pests. So both of those agencies have some relationship to the way this is regulated.
So they would be working together on these
Yes.
regulations to
Yes.
to work on enforcement. All right, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing any, is there anyone else here to testify on bill number 180555? Seeing none, thank you. Before we read the title of the next bill, I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Bass being present for the hearing. Mr. McMonagle, please read the title.
Bill number 180236, an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 307 by placing on the city plan an irregularly shaped area extending along the northerly side of John F. Kennedy Boulevard from 22nd Street to 23rd Streets in order to conform with the lines established by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Whoever wants to go first, just state your name for the record, and Frank, if you want to, and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Councilman Squale and members of the committee. My name is Frank Morelli, Survey Bureau Manager for the Department of Streets, and I'd like to offer the following testimony on Bill number 180236. This is an administration ordinance requested by the Department of Streets. The purpose of this proposed ordinance is to authorize the placing on city plan of an irregularly shaped area extending along the northerly side of John F. Kennedy Boulevard from 22nd Street to 23rd Street in order to conform with the lines established by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. PennDOT has acquired this area as an addition to the right-of-way and will be constructing a stairway and ramp at this location to provide a connection from the northerly side of John F. Kennedy Boulevard to the westerly side sidewalk of 22nd Street below. I will be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. I am Paula Brumbelow Burns, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill 180236, which was introduced by Councilmember Greenlee for Council President Clark on March 15, 2018. Bill number 180236 will authorize the revision of lines and grade changes on the city plan by placing the area between 22nd Street to 23rd Street on the northern side of JFK Boulevard on the city plan, so that the limits of the public right-of-way is officially documented. PennDOT is currently working on the bridge repair project, a pedestrian stairway and ramp which will be constructed at the northwestern side of 22nd Street and JFK Boulevard. This construction is part of the bigger effort to help improve pedestrian access to the Schuylkill River Trail. At its meeting on April 17, 2018, the City Planning Commission recommended Bill number 180236 be approved. This concludes my testimony. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today. We'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on bill number 180236? Seeing none, thank you. Did a great job.
Thank you.
Ms. McMonagle?
Bill number 180565, an ordinance amending Title 11 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Streets by amending Chapter 11-500 entitled Paving by creating Section 11508 entitled Private Development Projects by providing that the Department of Streets may establish regulations to require certain private development projects to pave and mill the adjacent roadway under certain terms and conditions. And Bill number 180566, an ordinance amending Title 11 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Streets by amending Chapter 11-600 entitled Construction Encroachments and Projections over, on, and under streets by amending Section 11-608 entitled Excavation and Construction in and under the sidewalks by providing that the area way encroachments may extend into the street line as far as may be required by the applicable utility provider.
Thank you. There's the two bills read into the record, and Rich, if you want to testify on both or one at a time, whatever you decide.
Good morning, Chairman Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. My name is Richard Montanez. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of the Streets Department, accompanied by Patrick O'Donnell, Director of Operations of Streets Department. I am here to present testimony on Bill number 180565 and Bill number 180566. Please allow me to address Bill number 180565. There's existing current criteria enacted by department regulations, specifically regulation governing street openings, excavations, and restorations, became law January 2005. The proposed legislation changes the Philadelphia Code to double the assessed project frontage size, currently 6, proposed to 12 resident units, and 100 to 200 linear feet of frontage, and increase the paving triggers from 40% disturbance to 60% disturbance, while also removing the regulation's 3+ lateral trigger for residential development. The Streets Department offers the following concerns. The department was not aware of the proposed changes to the code. This is a matter that currently exists by a regulation developed in response to the impacts to the roadway by private developers. In many cases, the Department of Streets has found itself tasked with providing repairs at a rate that could not be forecast onto established pavement maintenance practices. The Building Industry Association and the Committee of Highway Supervisors were notified in advance of the regulations changes by a Streets Department delegation. The meeting with the BIA was led by then Streets Commissioner Perry. This regulation subsequently became law without opposition. By increasing the department's current paving trigger, Council will effectively eliminate most of all low-density residential development and many small, medium-sized commercial development. By requiring more lenient triggers, the cost of private paving development will be borne by taxpayers, and existing city resources will be reallocated to repair the existing roadway degradation caused by development at the sacrifice of other citywide road maintenance activities. A 2015 analysis of costs to taxpayers that were deferred by requiring developers to pay for mitigations of their project, including restoration and mandated ADA improvements, amounted to over $3.5 million per year. The current bill does not provide special considerations for historic street, assessing only half the roadway width where conditions allow to reduce costs, providing refund options to roadway opening fees, particularly plumber's dishes. Average project size for small multi-unit infill development in typical less than 6 parcels per block. The department considered the financial burden by paving requirements could cost on a small-scale development and identify 6 parcels per block as a project of appropriate size to be less burdened by this regulation requirement. The current regulations offers a provision to refund the cost of plumber's permit, currently rated at $550 plus $145 per yard after 2 yards covered in the initial fee of $1,000 or more are not unusual. So this amount will be used as an example. The potential refund allowed in this example would be $6,000, 6 units times 1,000 per unit, which equates to paving of 300 square yards, assuming a cost of $20 per square yard. 6 residential row homes with 15-foot wide lots on a 34-foot wide street has a total frontage yard of 340 yards, 170 yards for half-width restoration. Total cost for a private paving agreement is not limited to the paving surface and would require replacement of the concrete base, asphalt binder for each trench, and ADA improvements as required by the federal law at roughly $8,000 per curved ramp. In absence of the current regulation, these costs will ultimately be borne by the taxpayers. This information was presented to the BIA and is written into the department's regulation. The largest department operation problem with enacting the current regulation is the time to contract with developers and likely reflect the greater cost to the developer. We are willing to propose alternative legislation to better empower the Department of Streets to be more expeditious in our contractual requirements, which are required by code. Additionally, we will be happy to discuss the ability to collect in lieu fees via escrow to reimburse private cost work performed by public contracts. Based on these concerns, we require Bill number 180565 be replaced with legislation that would allow for greater flexibility in issuance of private paving agreements, as well as the ability of the department to accept escrow funds for improvements necessitated by private development. Next, I will discuss Bill number 180566. The current code requires for arrowways allows for a 3-foot encroachment. The proposed revisions will allow for arrowways to extend unrestricted into entire footway and potentially beyond the curve line into the cartway if so required by utility. The Streets Department offers the following concerns. For new construction, the airway may be built within the parcel, so to allow conformance with Section 11-608 as currently written. For retrofitting of existing structures, we recommend restrictions that would require at least 4 feet of Americans with Disabilities Act compliant sidewalks be provided to reduce incidents related to material failure or improper grade installation that may affect ADA compliance. We also make these recommendations to allow people wearing heels to safely pass the proposed grades, which may otherwise pose a public hazard and liability to the city. Conformance with the requirements of airways being flush and without rails is also routinely being ignored by developers, that the Streets Department's inspectors are unable to comprehensively enforce these requirements citywide and still perform their other duties. Full encroachment of the footway may greatly restrict the ability of public utilities to provide services. In many areas in the city, the only remaining space for new public utilities, such as fiber optic companies, is the sidewalks. Based on these concerns, we require Bill number 180566 be revised to authorize the Department of Streets to develop criteria to allow greater flexibility in the approval of airways encroachment to ensure the safe and substantial use of the footways for all users. Thank you for your consideration. I will be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you. Pat, are you testifying at all, or are you just here for questions? We do see some concerns when development, especially, I mean, we've been dealing with it in my district with historic streets and how to get those streets fixed in a proper manner. And we do see that there are some concerns and some more work to be done. From talking with the president, he is more than willing to continue working on conversations with the Streets Department as this moves forward. Is there any questions? Seeing none, is there any other body testifying on bill number 180565 or 180566? Please come to the table.
Also, remember, the one's getting amended, just so you see it.
Good morning. My name is David Plant. I'm a civil engineer here on behalf of the Building Industry Association of Philadelphia, which represents the region's residential home builders, contractors, and material suppliers. I would like to thank Chairman Squilla and the members of the Committee on Streets for the opportunity to testify before you today. Here to testify in support of bills number 180565 and 180566, which were introduced by Councilman Squilla on behalf of Council President Clark at the BIA's request.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that we appreciate the Deputy Commissioner's testimony, and having heard it, feel like we're not really all that far apart and should be able to work out a solution that's acceptable to all parties. And I do want to make clear that this proposal is not intended to in any way impact the obligation to replace or install ADA ramps along a property frontage. Bill number 180565 allows the Department of Streets to establish regulations to require certain private development projects to pave and mill the adjacent roadway, which they currently do, but this allows them to do so only under certain terms and conditions. The current triggers requiring developers to mill and overlay streets are too low and unnecessarily burden many small development projects with significant construction costs for improvements that are often unnecessary. So currently the requirement is triggered for 6 new units, which often involves as few as 3 utility trenches, as the utility trenches for adjacent buildings are typically ganged together, so 6 buildings would typically end up with 3 trenches. This disturbance to the paved area is often quite small and doesn't warrant repaving of the entire frontage of the street, simply not necessary. Additionally, milling and repaving has been required for multifamily buildings which exceed the threshold, even though there's only one set of utility trenches. So in that case, that simply is often not required due to the small amount of disturbance. This requirement is particularly burdensome to small projects as the mobilization cost to mill and repave streets is very high because of the size and type of equipment that's required. So typically it is around $30,000 just to have the contractor show up, even for a very small area that has to be repaved, milled and repaved. And it's very difficult and costly, obviously, to have that cost borne by so few units, as few as 6 units. So bill number 180565 requires repaving of the entire property frontage only if one of 3 scenarios exists with the private development. We're proposing if that disturbs 60% or more of the adjacent roadway area, or if it involves new construction or substantial improvements of 12 or more adjacent residential lots or properties fronting on the same roadway block, or if it involves new construction or substantial improvement of 200 linear feet or more of frontage on a roadway block. The second bill being heard today, bill number 180566, provides that area-way encroachments may extend into the street line as far as may be required by the applicable utility provider. This is a legislative response to issues that have arisen as a result of the streets code not being coordinated with the practical realities of what PICO requires. Specifically, PICO requires that the minimum size of an electric vault under a sidewalk be at least 4 feet wide, often 5 feet or more, yet the current streets code prohibits electrical vaults under the sidewalk to extend more than 3 feet. So 4 feet by 6 feet seems to be a typical size, standard size that's frequently required by PICO and is routinely rejected, and that leaves the developer in a stalemate, unable to provide power to the project and having very little recourse with the streets department. We've had many, many projects that have been stalled over this issue. We understand that Streets has been looking for a way to resolve this, but feel like their hands are tied by the current regulations. So this legislation is an attempt to break that logjam, and this proposal would not have any negative impact on the public, since the sidewalks would still have to be compliant and provide an adequate walking zone for the public. The BIA is aware that the Streets Department opposes these bills, and we have had conversations with them to that effect. It's important to note, BIA has also brought these issues up to Streets over the course of the last several years, but we've been unable to resolve these issues. Consequently, the BIA has asked Council President to consider introducing these bills as a means to streamline the development process. I think we're really looking forward to this bill coming out of rules and working with Streets to resolve the outstanding issues. We greatly appreciate the Council President's support, and we ask that the committee consider supporting these bills, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. As we said to the Streets Department, we did speak to Council President, and he does want people to get together and work on this to come up with, it seems like it's very close to be able to come up to an agreement. So, is there any questions? Seeing none, is anyone else here to testify on bills number 180565 or 180566? Seeing none, that'll end our hearing. We will now go into a meeting. I'd like to recognize Councilman Greenlee on the amendment to bill number 180566.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the adoption of the amendment to bill number 180566 that has been distributed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Bill number 180566 has been amended. Councilman Greenlee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the following bills be reported from this committee with favorable recommendation with a rule suspension to allow first reading on the next section of council. Bill numbers 180555, 180236, 180565, and 180566 as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All bills read into the record have been approved with the suspension of rules. We'll go to the next session of council. That will end our session. Thank you very much.